Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Bhagavad-gītā. Today we will be studying chapter 9, texts 9 and 10, the master of the material world. So that's the topic for today's class. So we'll say our Mangalacharan prayers, invoking the blessings of the Parampara, Srila Prabhupada and the entire disciplic succession, and then we'll begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादि पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So welcome to today's Bhagavad-gītā class. I'm sorry for the extreme delay today. Please share it with the devotees in the WhatsApp groups and social media so that others can also join. So we'll begin. Chapter 9, text 9. न च मां तानि कर्माणि निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय udāsīna-vad āsīnam asaktaṁ teṣu karmasu. Na, never. Cha, also. Mam, me. Tāni, all those. Karmāṇi, activities. Nibadhnanti, bind. Dhanañjaya, O conqueror of riches. Udāsīna-vad, as neutral. āsīnam, situated. Asaktaṁ, without attraction. Teṣu, for those. Karmasu, activities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: O Dhanañjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached from all these material activities, seated as though neutral. I think the original version of it, differs slightly, isn't it? All this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached, seated as though neutral. Here they added, I am ever detached from all these material activities, seated as though neutral. No need to add that. Anyway, maybe the original, manuscript, maybe it is there. I have to check. Anyway, but the meaning doesn't really change. So all this work cannot bind me. So what is all that work? We have read in the previous session. What is that? You see? All beings, all created beings rest in me. And here, at the end of the millennium, all material manifestations enter into my nature. And at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I create them again. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again, and under my will, it is annihilated at the end. So all these things, the Lord is not really attached to anything, and He is not even bound by all this work. Udāsīna-vad. So let's read the purport. One should not think in this connection that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no engagement. In His spiritual world, He is always engaged. In the Brahma Samhita 5.6, it is stated, Atma Ramasya tasya asti prakṛtiḥ na samāgamaha. He is always involved in his eternal blissful spiritual activities, but he has nothing to do with these material activities. Material activities are being carried on by his different potencies. The Lord is always neutral in the material activities of the created world. This neutrality is mentioned here with the word udāsīna-vad. Although he has control over every minute detail of material activities, he is sitting as if neutral. The example can be given of a high court judge sitting on his bench. By his order, so many things are happening. Someone is being hanged, someone is being put into jail, someone is awarded a huge amount of wealth, but still he is neutral. He has nothing to do with all that gain and loss. Similarly, the Lord is always neutral although he has his hand in every sphere of activity. In the Vedanta Sutra 2.134, it is stated, Vaishamya naigrihnye na. He is not situated in the dualities of this material world. He is transcendental to these dualities, nor is he attached to the creation and annihilation of this material world. The living entities take their different forms in the various species of life according to their past deeds, and the Lord doesn't interfere with them. So, I think it is quite self-explanatory. The example of the High Court judge is given there. The High Court judge passes so many judgments, but then he is not implicated. He does not gain anything. He does not lose anything. And even for putting the criminals in punishment, he will not get any reaction for that. Usually, when we put somebody into trouble, if I do a crime, then if I give trouble to someone, I will have to pay for it. But the judge always gives trouble to all the criminals, but he's never acquitted for any crime because of that. So similarly, the Lord also judges us, and even that judging also he has outsourced it to Yamaraj. Even that judging he personally does not do. But it's not that Yamaraj is judging and not Krishna is judging. No, it is Krishna judging through the agency of Yamaraj. So Yamaraj does exactly what Krishna wants him to do. So therefore, Yamaraj's actions are actually on the supreme will of Krishna. All of them, all the devatas, they act on the will of Krishna. So although it may look like they are the ones doing it, but they act because strictly on the will of Krishna. Their activities are non-different from Krishna's in the management of the material world. That is true for, the demigods, and especially so of the Acharya, who preaches on behalf of Krishna. And even his activities, if he orders us something, we should take it that it is Krishna's order. Why? Because Krishna is ordering through him. He is very dear, and he is very dear to Krishna, and therefore whatever he says, Krishna wants that. And what does devotee want? Only Krishna's service. He doesn't want anything ulterior than that. So, in this way, we have to understand. I think it's quite self-explanatory. So, it is in stark contrast to our activities usually. Our activities, we do things because we want something out of it. It is exploitative in nature. What is that word? Shoshan. Shoshan means exploitation. So this exploitation is what we do. What is exploitation? That means I want something out of a situation, and for that I will do something. If I don't want anything, I will not do anything about it. But that is not the case with responsible demigods, and also especially Krishna. Demigods, they are just, of course, doing their duty according to what they were, ordered so by Krishna. And that too, Krishna does not directly order them. He orders them through agency of Brahma, like that. Prajapatis, in that way it is coming down. So they also have disciplic succession. They follow all that. Like Brihaspati, he is the priest of the demigods. He is the spiritual master of the demigods, and they take instructions from him. Devarshi Narada, and also from higher. Sometimes Brahma personally intervenes in the affairs of the demigods. So in that way, there has to be a chain of command. So we have to follow like that. So that is the thing. But Krishna does not have any direct interest in this whole thing. He manages such a huge institution of this material world, but he has zero interest. His interest is this. His interest is that we rectify ourselves and go back to him and stop our own suffering. So that is the only thing that Krishna is doing this for, to give us a chance. So next verse, this is a very important verse, 9-10. mayādhyakṣeṇa prakṛtiḥ sūyate sa-carācaram hetunānena kaunteya jagad viparivartate. This material world, which is one of my energies is working under my direction, O son of Kuntī, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Purport. It is clearly stated here that the Supreme Lord, although aloof from all the activities of the material world, remains the Supreme Director. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Will and the background of this material manifestation, but the management is being conducted by material nature. सृष्टि स्थिति प्रलय साधन शक्ति रेखा छायेव यस्य भुवनानि बिभर्ति दुर्गा इच्छानुरूपमपि यस्य च चेष्टते सा गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. So Durga conducts this material world on the order of Krishna. So supreme will behind everything is Krishna, and he employs different energies to perform his various activities. Krishna also states in Bhagavad-gītā that of all of the living entities in different forms and species, quote, I am the father, unquote. The father gives seeds to the womb of the mother for the child, and similarly, the Supreme Lord, by his mere glance, injects all the living entities into the womb of material nature, and they come out in their different forms and species according to their last desires and activities. All these living entities, although born under the glance of the Supreme Lord, take their different bodies according to their past deeds and desires. So the Lord is not directly attached to this material creation. He simply glances over material nature and he simply glances over material nature. Material nature is thus activated and everything is created immediately. Because he glances over material nature, there is undoubtedly activity on the part of the Supreme Lord, but he has nothing to do with the manifestation of the material world directly. This example is given in the Smriti. When there is a fragrant flower before someone, the fragrance is touched by the smelling power of the person, yet the smelling and the flower are detached from one another. There is a similar connection between the material world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, he has nothing to do with his material world, but he creates by his glance and ordains. In summary, the material nature, without the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot do anything. Yet the Supreme Personality is detached from all material activities. mayādhyakṣeṇa. Adhyakshata means under his supervision, under his command. So Maya means my. Under my command, this material world, including all its sa-carācaram, sūyate, sa-carācaram, manifests all the moving and non-moving beings. Hetuna, for the reason, annihilated, this, jagad viparivartate. So, again, this is already stated in the Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha verse in Brahma Samhita 544. So, this is very important to understand. And I've said this, I think, few sessions before, that is it Durga who is conducting the material world, or is it Shiva, or is it Krishna, or is it Brahma, or is it Indra? All of them. There's a chain of command. So, Krishna is at the top, under him Durga. Of course, Shiva is the glance, the power of glance of the Supreme Lord, and he directly engages with Durga. And Durga, in turn, has the three modes of material nature under her, and all of that, all of them have gunavatars controlling them. And then she conducts herself, she has subordinates, like the demigods and everyone. So, through all this chain of command, the whole thing is being done. Just like in even in any government, there is the prime minister, then there is the you know home affairs, external affairs, defense affairs. So many ministries are there, and in home affairs there is multiple departments under that. Um, Even police or law and everything. And there is a law department in itself, judiciary department, and then there is the even in the police there is, even in the defense there is navy, army, and air force chief, and under them there are many subdivisional managers, and then platoon commanders or whatever. So many chain of command until the last. So if the supervisor or the commander or platoon sergeant or whatever, whoever, maybe I'm mixing up the names also, if these ranks they say something, it is not exactly the prime minister is saying, but it's all under his rule. Everything is being conducted and strictly. So it's a crude example, but that is something how Krishna is also managing this material world. Um, in fact, by nature's own way, parents will take care of the children. Actually, Krishna is the one who entrusted them with the task of maintaining those children. So his maintenance comes in under his different energies. So the parents naturally take care of the child. And to take care of the child like that, one must have affection. Otherwise, one will have to pay, right? You have to pay for somebody to take care of someone. Like there are sometimes caretakers who are employed, maids who are employed. So for them, we have to pay because they have no direct relation. When there is a relation, automatically you will do. So the Lord, He arranges the maintenance of everyone through His energies, sometimes under His direct command, sometimes under His indirect command, and even that indirect can be parents. Nobody told, not that some demigod came and told them, okay, take care of this child. No. Krishna has created, through the agency of Durga, in a way that when the child is born, the parents are automatically attached to the child. So that affection itself dictates to them that they have to take care. Until the end of life, they will do so many sacrifices for the child. So that is not anybody telling, but that feeling will come because the Lord dictates. As Paramatma, as in the Maya's own way. I mean, there is an affection which, of course, binds the parents. There is a binding factor as well. At the same time, that is also the maintaining factor of the child, maintenance arrangement of the child. And for the parents, it's bondage. But if it's Krishna conscious, then it becomes properly situated. Because then the parents, it is natural for parents to take care of the children. But then if they introduce Krishna consciousness, then that is spiritualized. Otherwise, everything is running by the power of the, or by the mayādhyakṣeṇa prakṛtiḥ, under his supervision. So when we say karmana daivanetrena, by the supervision of the Supreme Lord and by the activities of the living entity, he is put into a certain kind of womb of a mother through a particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body. Now that, when he says by the supervision of the Supreme Lord, it's not that the Supreme Lord personally says, okay, put them here, put this fellow there. He doesn't say like that. He does not sit down and do all this work and tiring for him. Nothing. He is not even there. You can't even find him. Yamaraj, Yamaraj is doing his job, and Yamadutas are there. They will carry. I mean, the whole arrangement. Of course, Krishna is also there as Paramatma. He's just witnessing out of his love for the living entity. He sits beside him, and then he's witnessing everything. And through his energies, through his uh, demigods and the whole, arrangement, he's doing everything. So directly or indirectly, he's everywhere, and his rule is already always working everywhere. And so, sarvatah panipadam tat, sarvatokshi shiromukham, sarvatah shrutimaloke sarvam avritya tishtati. Chapter 13, text 14 of Bhagavad-gītā. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the Supersoul exists, pervading everything. Now, it is difficult to imagine this, right? But we have some technology which can give us an idea, like CCTV cameras, for example, or some audio recording or something like that. You can actually, see everywhere, everything. Like you install CCTV cameras and the security guard. Every time you see a security guard, please remember Krishna, because that security guard is looking at this huge monitor, and he has multiple screens there, different camera sources. He's looking at everything. So he has eyes in all these different places of a building or a establishment or whatever, or even sometimes different places, different locations. Maybe he's here, like even army and defense. They have cameras everywhere, their borders and everything, and they watch from very far. And they're every one person sitting, he can watch maybe a border of like a few 100 kilometers or 1,000 kilometers, just one place sitting, and he can monitor all this. So how are we able to do that? I mean, if we can be able to do that with some technological manipulation, why can't the Lord do it? Hmm. So every time you see a security guard with all these camera sources that he's looking at, you can remember Krishna. So this is how, you know sarvatokshi shiromukham. That's why there is this verse. Sometimes, with so-called science, we may not understand this properly because science is deficient. This is all superstition. सूर्योऽग्निः खं मरुद्देवः सोमः सन्ध्याहनि दिशः कं कुः स्वयं धर्म इति ह्येते दैह्यस्य साक्षिणः. The sun, fire, sky, air, demigods, moon, evening, day, night, directions, water, land, and Supersoul himself all witness the activities of the living entity. Now you may say, what is this evening witnessing, day witnessing, night witnessing, directions witnessing? But they actually witness because the Lord is everywhere. If we say that the Lord is in every single atom, paramāṇu chayantarastham, the Lord is knowing everything directly and indirectly. Abhijña, the Lord is called Abhijña. Abhijña means he is in knowledge of everything directly and indirectly. And Krishna can immediately spiritualize whatever material energies he has. So through the wind or through the evening or through the demigods, moon or day and night, directions, fire, sky, air, he can see through that. He can see. You see? So this is an instance of how Krishna is watching directly and indirectly through his energies and personally also. So we cannot actually escape from him at any point of time. So the natural conclusion is that we have to surrender to him. Mayādhyakṣeṇa. The problem is we think mayādhyakṣeṇa. That means under my rule everything is working. A demonic person thinks like that. Oh, I am controlling everything, or I should control everything. And therefore he will try to assert his dominance by diminishing the influence of others. In this way there is a constant struggle. But Krishna is clearly saying that mayādhyakṣeṇa, everything is happening by mine. So we have to surrender to that supreme will. Now this does not mean that, oh, it's because he is doing it, therefore he is responsible for my actions, even if if they are wrong. He is responsible. No, that's why it is said, I am ever detached, and these don't bind me. And that is also stated in another place in Bhagavad-gītā. 5:15 Nadatte kasyachit papam na chaiva sukritam vibhuh ajñānenāvritam jnānam tena muhyanti jantavah. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of their ignorance, which covers their real knowledge. 5:15 and 4:14 also. न मां कर्माणि लिम्पन्ते न मे कर्मफले स्पृहा इति मां योऽभिजानाति कर्मभिर्न स बध्यते. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. So these are the things that we can learn about the detached nature of the Lord. And if one actually becomes a servant of the Lord in devotional service, then his activities also will not be under the modes of material nature, and such activity will also not bind the performer. So if I act on Krishna's direction, then that is called akarma, and I will not be bound by any material reactions. So when a king rules that this man should be hanged because he killed someone, now the king will not get that um, karma for that. He will be indemnified because it is the rightful way that a person should be punished according to the Manusmriti law. That if a person has killed someone, then he has to be killed, hanged. That is a proper punishment. And if the king does that, that is proper. In fact, when he does not do it, then he will become implicated for the sin of his citizen who has committed the sin. And that is also mentioned, right? I think it's 4:20-24, fourth canto, 20th chapter, I think 14. श्रेयः प्रजापालनमेव राज्ञो यत्साम्पराये सुकृतात् षष्ठमंशम् हर्तान्यथा हृतपुण्यः प्रजानाम् अरक्षिताः करहारोघमत्ति. To give protection to the general mass of people who are citizens of the state is the prescribed occupational duty for a king. By acting in that way, the king in his next life shares 1/6 of the result of the pious activities of the citizens. But a king or executive head of the state who simply collects taxes from the citizens but does not give them proper protection as human beings has the results of his own pious activities taken away by the citizens, and in exchange for his not giving protection, he becomes liable to punishment for the impious activities of his subjects. Now, this protection means protection from sinful activities. And a person, a king, ordering the execution of a murderer is actually protection of the murderer. The murderer must be protected from further suffering in the future life because of his murder. So, for that reason, he has to be killed. It is actually protection for the murderer, although it looks like punishment. So, this is true even for the Lord, right? When he comes and kills someone, that person gets liberated. Of course, in the king's case, when he orders this thing, he does not get liberated, but he's actually protected. So the person, the demon who's killed by Krishna, actually he's protected by Krishna. He's given the highest. He is given liberation. So when we act on the order of the Lord like that, as a representative of the Lord, then we will not be implicated in the karmic reactions. We will be doing without any implications. So modern scientists, they try to understand this material world, and they don't realize that there is an adhyakshata of this material world. Who is the adhyaksha? Who is the rule maker? Under its rule, everything is working, but who's the rule maker? So they don't understand this, and they think, oh, this is something superstitious, something and it's not provable. That is their stupidity. So this is why Western science, anything that is atheistic science, always falls short because they are biased against God. They have a bias against God. So their thing is, unless you prove to me, I cannot believe. Krishna says, unless you believe in me, I will not prove to you. I will prove whatever your ideology is. You will be bewildered. Hmm. So that is a very mysterious nature of the Lord. य उद्धरेत् करं राजा प्रजा धर्मेष्वशिक्षयन् प्रजानां शमलं भुङ्क्ते भगं च स्वं जहाति सः. Any king who does not teach his citizens about their respective duties in terms of varna and ashrama, but who simply exacts tolls and taxes from them, is liable to suffer for the impious activities which have been performed by the citizens. In addition to such degradation, the king also loses his own fortune. So, similar verse like before. Now, regarding the Lord, we all have different kinds of opinions, and the Lord acts in such a way that everybody will be convinced of his own position. यच्छक्तयो वदतां वादिनां वै विवादसंवादभुवो भवन्ति कुर्वन्ति चैषां मुहुरात्ममोहं तस्मै नमोऽनन्तगुणाय भुङ्ने. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, who possesses unlimited transcendental qualities, acting from within the cores of the hearts of the philosophers, of all philosophers who propagate various views. He causes them to forget their own souls, while sometimes agreeing and sometimes disagreeing among themselves. Thus, he creates within this material world a situation in which they are unable to come to a conclusion. I offer my obeisances unto him. But for the devotees, it's different. They're able to come to a conclusion, and they're not interested in any more debates or arguments. And similar verses are mentioned here in the 11th chapter, 22nd verse. I think I've shown you this before. 4, 5, and 6. Shri Bhagavanuvāca yuktam च सन्ति सर्वत्र भाषन्ते ब्राह्मणा यथा मायां मदीयाम् उद्गृह्य वदतां किं नु दुर्घटम्. Lord Krishna replied, because all material elements are present everywhere, it is reasonable that different learned brahmanas have analyzed them in different ways. All such philosophers spoke under the shelter of my mystic potency, and thus they could say anything without contradicting the truth. नैतदेवं यथार्थत्वं यदहं वच्मि तत्तथा एवं विवदतां हेतुं शक्तयो मे दुरत्ययाः. When philosophers argue, quote, I don't choose to analyze this particular case in the same way that you have, unquote. It is simply my own insurmountable energies that are motivating their analytic disagreements. See? यासां व्यतिकरादासीद् विकल्पो वदतां पदं प्राप्ते शमदमेप्येति वादस्तमनुषं शाम्यति. By interaction of my energies, different opinions arise. But for those who have fixed their intelligence on me and control their senses, differences of perception disappear, and consequently the very cause for argument is removed. See? The differences of perception disappear. So they will see then what will happen to their perception. So then they will see through the eyes of the Shastra, first of all. And then when they become advanced, they can see everything personally. So when they see through the eyes of the Shastra, and also Shastra can be very bewildering, honestly. Unless you receive it from a proper guru who is coming in an authorized Vaishnava Sampradaya, you can never understand what the Shastra is saying. Only the Vaishnavas, they have the answers. Because they take it from Krishna through the parampara system. Every other philosopher is faulty. They may partially be true in some aspects, but the ultimate conclusion is always faulty of such philosophers. Only the devotees who are following properly the orders of the spiritual master and take with great faith, like Shvetashvatara Upanishad says, what is that? um, यथा देवे तथा गुरौ तस्य ते कथिता ह्यर्थाः प्रकाशन्ते महात्मनः. Yeah, yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tatha guru. So that is important. So as much as one has faith in Krishna, so that much faith one has to have in Guru, and then yes, he will have everything revealed to him. So in that way, we have to conduct ourselves. We have to speak on behalf of the Lord. We have to act on behalf of the Lord. That should be our action. So if you go back to the verse again, udāsīna-vad, āsīnam, situated, asaktaṁ teṣu karmasu. Udāsīna means neutral. Um, there's three words: mitra, udāsīna, ripun. Ripun means enemy, and mitra means friend. Udāsīna means neutral. So this um, udāsīna, neutral, does not mean that he does not do anything. It's not that he does not do anything. He is not personally interested in anything, but he impartially awards everyone. See? So, ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham. Yadrishi yadrishi shraddha siddhir bhavati tadrishi. So, these verses are there. Bhagavad-gītā, Brahma Samhita. So, according to our faith, we will advance. We will be rewarded according to our surrender to the Supreme Lord. Mayādhyakṣeṇa. Here he is saying udāsīna, neutral, and there he says mayādhyakṣeṇa. Now, they can be contradictory, is it not? But they are not contradictory. I think the High Court judge example is perfect. And even a king, when the police arrest someone, it's not that the king personally has anything against the criminal. But under his direction, under his departments, under his sub-departments, one policeman, one constable, he went and arrested somebody. So, although the king doesn't, even the policeman himself does not have anything against that criminal, because he went against the law, so he has to be punished impartially. So, it's not a vengeance or anything like that. Asaktaṁ teṣu karmasu. So, as devotees, we have to be neutral, but at the same time, we have to also fully involve ourselves in Krishna consciousness. So, how to do that? So, that is what Krishna is actually teaching. In fact, the third chapter, if you see, one has to still work even though one is not bound, just to set example for others and also to work under Krishna's order in devotional service. So that sets two things. So for our own purification, okay, let me show you. You see here, 316, he says, Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati hayah aghayurindriyaramo mogham parthasa jivati. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. So, if one does not do the sacrificial performances, especially karma, then he will perform sinful activities. He certainly lives a life full of sin, aghayur. But yastva atmaratireva syad atmatriptascha manava. Next verse, 317. Atmanyeva cha santushtas tasya karyam na vidyate. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization and who is satisfied in the self alone, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. So he is not bound and he is not obliged But who is such a person who takes pleasure in the self? There is only a devotee actually. Even the so-called Brahmanandavadis, they actually cannot get full pleasure, otherwise they will not return to material activities. Uh, Usually they come back to material philanthropic work, but devotee does not do that. The next verse he says, 318, Naivatasya kritenartho na kriteneha kaschana, na chasa sarva bhuteshu kaschid. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. You see, why do we work? Many people work in a job, right? So we do that because we depend on the income that we get, for those who work. Now, a pure devotee, he does not need to depend on any other living entity. And he has no reason to perform all the prescribed duties in the Vedas. And he has no reason not to perform such work. Now, how can somebody, you know, reconcile all of these things at the same time? So then he goes further. Tasmad asaktaha satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hyacharan karma paramapnodi purushaha. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. So, of course, this is a, you know, for those who are involved in material activities. But even we can take this as spiritual also. Without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. Now, Arjuna was supposed to fight, not for gaining the kingdom or not to consider the loss of the kingdom or his own life, none of that. Krishna asked him, he has to do it. So, working without attachment, one attains the supreme. Then he goes on, karmanaiva hi samsadhyam astita janakadaya lokasangraham evapi sampashan kartumarhasi. Kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. So, lokasangraham evapi sampashan kartumarhasi. So, to set an example for people in general on how to act in a moral, religious way, one should continue to act. Otherwise, they will quote the examples of those liberated souls who don't need to work, who are not obliged to work as the karmis are. So the karmis may quote such examples and justify their own non-action in religious life. So, in order for the situation not to be disturbed, the social situation, so the liberated persons are also advised to act really according to dharma. Then he says, whatever, of course, this is a famous verse, yadyadacharati shreshthas tattadevetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tatanu. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. And then he says about himself. So, one should act for two reasons. So, one reason we have just seen that we have to, even though I'm not obliged, I have to still act so that I will set an example for others. One. Then he gives examples for that, his own example, in fact. He says, Name parthasta kartavyam drishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptam avaptavam vartaiva karmani. O son of Pritham, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. Yadi hyaham na varteyam chatu karmanyatandritaha mama vartman vartante manushyaha partha sarvasha. For if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. Utsideyurime loka nakuriyam karma chedaham sankarasya chakarta sam upahanyam imah praja. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. Of course, the Lord will never do such things. Of course, he did certain things which are not understood by common people, like Ras Leela and all these things. And people may draw some wrong conclusions from those Leelas. But Of course, they are wrong. There is a whole science behind that. But you see how one may not need to act in a certain way in social intercourse, but one should still act, because by not acting, by setting an example, a misleading example for others, I will commit some sin. Because any leader will take the followers karma also. If the follower is not strictly adhering to religious principles, then the leader also takes the karma, right? Just now we have seen 1/6 the king. The king must lead the subjects. So that's why it is said pitana sasya jananina sasya. What is that? 5518. गुरुर्न सस्यात् स्वजनो न स्यात् पिता न सस्यात् जननी न सा स्यात् दैवं न तत्स्यान्न पतिश्च सस्यान् नमो च येद्यः समुपेत मृत्युम्. One who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. So we cannot become these things if we cannot deliver our dependents. And if we do become any of leader in any way, then we are responsible for the actions of our followers as well. So, of course, then he explains all these things. Then he says this 330. Once he explains the concept of acting on principle of laying an example for others, after explaining that, he goes about now to the next layer of this understanding, next layer of reasoning on why Arjuna should fight. First, he says that one has to, yajñārthāt karmaṇi, he has to act on the, act for Vishnu, act for the in sacrifice. And then he explains, and every conditioned soul has to act in that way. So that is one reasoning. Then the next layer of reasoning is, even if you are no more conditioned, even if you are liberated, you still have to act because you have to set example for others. Because if you set an example which is misleading for others, then you will have to also, you will put the whole world to ruination. Krishna says, I myself will put the whole world to ruination if I don't act properly. And the next layer is this. मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि सन्न्यस्याध्यात्मचेतसा निराशीर्निर्ममो भूत्वा युध्यस्व विगतज्वरः. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. How many things here? Surrendering all your works to Krishna, with full knowledge of Krishna, without desire for profit, without claims for proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. If we have no proprietorship in anything, we will be lethargic. Suppose if it's my own business, if I want to set up and start my own business, I'll be quite enthusiastic to get it off the ground and get it going. But if it's somebody else's business, if I am an employee, I don't have the similar enthusiasm. I may work to get my pay, but I don't have the similar enthusiasm as the owner of the business. So if I don't have proprietorship, if I have no ownership if I have no stake in the ownership, then I will not be having the same enthusiasm for it. But here Krishna is saying, with no claims to proprietorship, with no desires for profit, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, free from lethargy at the same time, fight. So this is this third layer of reasoning why Arjuna had to fight, because Krishna ordered him to do so. And that's devotional service. So if you look at it from any angle, Arjuna had to fight. So that's what Krishna is getting at. Arjuna, whichever angle you want to look at this from, every angle points to the same conclusion, that you have to fight. If you are just a karmi and you have no other understanding of religion, then yes, you have to fight, because a Kshatriya's duty is to fight. Whether it's one's own family or not, one has to fight. Lord Ramchandra fought with his own children. Lava and Kusha. And later on, of course, he knew it was Lava and Kusha. Of course, Ramchandra knows everything. But that was the story, right? So, even with his own children and Lava and Kusha, although they knew that Ramchandra is their father, they still fought with him. A Kshatriya must fight, whoever it is. So, and Krishna even said, if you die, you will, go to heaven. If you win, then you will get to enjoy this earth. So even if you want to enjoy, if that is your only aim of life, you have to fight. If you have to do now Vedic way, okay, you don't want to just enjoy, you want to act responsibly. So then as a duty you must fight, even if you are not even a devotee, even in Karmakanda section, every Kshatriya has to fight. Because yajñārtha karmaṇo. Uh, so we have to act according to yajna. And यज्ञा यज्ञः कर्मसमुद्भवः कर्म ब्रह्मोद्भवं विद्धि ब्रह्माक्षर समुद्भवं तस्मात् सर्वगतं ब्रह्म नित्यं यज्ञे प्रतिष्ठितम् 3:14 and 3:15. So yajna, what is this yajna? Yajna arthat karma. What is that? Yajna karma samudbhavah. Yajna is born out of prescribed duties, and karma brahmodbhavam vidhi. Prescribed duties are coming from Vedas, and brahmakshara samudbhavam. The Vedas are coming from the Supreme Lord. Tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yajne pratishthitam. That's why the Supreme Lord is present in every act of sacrifice. So the Vedas say you must fight. So even if I am not just for enjoying on the heavenly planets or enjoying on the earth, if that is not my motive, no, I'm not interested in enjoyment here or there. That's what actually Arjuna said in the beginning. Kim rajyena govinda, kim no rajyena govinda, kim bhogair jivitena va, येषाम अर्थे कांक्षितं नो राज्यं भोगा सुखानि च तयमेव स्थिता युद्धे प्राणान् त्यक्त्वा धनानि च. So he's saying in the first chapter that for those people whom we are trying to with whom we are trying to enjoy this kingdom, they themselves are there facing us in the battle now. You see, I mean, how can we fight? So his whole point was we should enjoy this kingdom with our relatives, with our family and subjects and everything. So why should I kill? So Krishna answered every reasoning. If you are purely wanting to enjoy, whether in heaven or in hell, sorry, not hell, on the earth, whether in heaven or on earth, you have to fight. Because if you die, you will go to heaven. If you win, you will enjoy the earth. Hato va prapsase swargam, jitva va bhokshase mahim. Okay, first reason, first layer. Second layer, if you have to act on sacrifice, okay, you're not interested in these results, then you are bound by your varnashram rules that you have to fight. Okay, you are above these rules, you are liberated soul, still you have to fight because you have to set an example for others, because otherwise you will be misleading them. So as an example, you have to still fight. And finally, you are my devotee and I want you to fight, and therefore you have to fight without any claims for proprietorship. Even after you win the war, it is not that you are the enjoyer of the kingdom. No, you have to act on my behalf. So how many layers Krishna is explaining here. So similarly, Krishna himself actually always acts on that principle. He does so many things through his energies. mayādhyakṣeṇa prakṛtiḥ. But he's not bound by such action. He's not attached to it, attracted to it, nothing. So that's why it is said, Harirhi nirguna sakshat purusha prakrite paraha sasarvadrig, no, I think, yeah, sasarvadrig upadrashta tanbhajan nirguno bhavet. Yes. 1088.5 of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Krishna is beyond the modes, and by acting on behalf of Krishna, by becoming devotee, the devotee also becomes above modes. And that is also, okay, let's go to 1088.5. Lord Hari, however, has no connection with the material modes. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the all-seeing eternal witness, who is transcendental to material nature. One who worships him becomes similarly free from the material modes. And this is also echoed in another verse, 1:11:38. which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also quoted it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, 11138. एतदीशनमीशस्य प्रकृतिस्थोऽपि तद्गुणैः न युज्यते सदात्मस्थैर्यथा बुद्धिस्तदाश्रया. This is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. You see? Similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by the material qualities. Of course, we cannot do mayādhyakṣeṇa, prakṛtiḥ. That's the stark difference between us and the Lord. He is the owner of everything, under his direction everything is moving. And we have to take his shelter. I've explained in the previous verse. Everything is happening out of fear of him. And the devotee takes shelter of such Lord whom everybody else fears. The demigods, the elements of material nature herself, everybody fears him. It's like the lion. All animals fear the lion. But the cub does not fear the lion. He will take shelter of the lion, and he will be protected by from all other animals just by that surrender. So mayādhyakṣeṇa. So he is the controller of everything, and the devotee should submit to the controller. And nobody can do anything to such a devotee. Nobody. This is this final note. This is the difference between Western science and actual Vedic science. This is theistic science, that is atheistic science. They fundamentally deny God. We fundamentally accept God. They deny until you can prove to me, until you show me, I will not believe. So the Lord will not come and show them. In fact, they're always atheistic. They don't believe that there is a person who's doing this. So the Lord lets them be convinced by their stupid concoctions. But Krishna is clearly saying here, mayādhyakṣeṇa prakṛtiḥ, sūyate sa-carācaram. And nobody has said that. Nobody has said that. Not even Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, he accepts that the Supreme is Vishnu. Of course, he is the controller of the material world, Durga. But he himself also works under the direction of Krishna. So that's the thing. So I will stop it here. If there are any questions or anything, please ask and we'll try to answer them. Otherwise, I would like to stop it here. What are the questions? So, the question is from Jai Sri Ram. Seems like powerful capitalists like BlackRock, etc., hold more sway over policy than titular heads of state, like Rishi Sunak. Are they the actual kings and are more responsible? See, as long as I am in the ruling position, I will have to face. And BlackRock, well, they have financial hands everywhere, tentacles everywhere. But of course, those money, they lobby the government and then get things done. So, I mean, whoever is in the conspiracy, everybody is involved, right? Manusmriti 5.51. It says 8 kinds of conspirators are all, involved in a in an act of conspiracy. So, of course, it is said in the matter in with regards to meat eating, but the general principle holds for everything, for any sinful activity. Even if a citizen commits something without even consulting the king, like say he eats meat, for that person who has eaten chicken, 1/6 of that pav is going to the king. The king doesn't even know such a citizen, but still he is getting. So it's very dangerous to become a political leader of any country, because the amount of sinful activity, sinful reaction that one gets is just unimaginably high. So therefore, one should become only a leader when he is confident of administering Krishna consciousness and presenting the Vedic formula of life. So therefore, the only way a civilization can be run without any path reactions is by arranging this whole varnashram system and the Vedic system. Otherwise, there's no hope. There's no hope at all. All right, I think there's no other question. So I'll stop it here. Thank you very much. So we'll continue on Saturday with Chaitanya Charitamrita. I wanted to do that articles of Vaishnava Acharyas this Monday, but I was extremely busy until night, so there was no way. But I'll try as much as possible. Article of Vaishnava Acharyas, Vaishnava songs, AMAM, these three has to kind of rotate. So alright, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Bhagavad-gītā ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai. Nathai Gaur Pramanand. Hare 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 Krishna.